Today we're gonna be making one of my favorite breakfast burritos that I love to eat. We're gonna be making some chicharron and salsa verde. Okay, to go over our ingredients, we are going to need about a half of a pound of chicharron. Now these are some cracklings that I picked up. I actually wanted to make some chicharrones from scratch so that way I can show you how to make those. And also having the pork belly, there's some pieces of actual meat on there that I actually prefer. But this recipe you could do with this, or you could use the whole pork belly type chicharron. But you could find these pretty much anywhere and ready to go. So we'll need about a half a pound of chicharron. We will need 1 pound of tomatillos, a half a bunch of cilantro. I'm using Serrano chilies, but you could use, you honestly don't have to put a spicy pepper in this. I'm putting in 3. I don't know how spicy these Serranos are, but I'm hoping to have a little bit of salsa left over so that way I can have for like other meals and stuff like that. But I can take the heat, so I'm going with 3 Serrano chilies. You could use jalapenos. Like I said, you don't have to use a spicy pepper. You can use a green bell pepper, a poblano pepper, any type of like Hatch chili pepper, mild, medium, or spicy. This right here is up to your preference. We will also be needing a half of an onion, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 3 garlic cloves, and finally we'll need about a cup of chicken broth. You could use chicken stock, or if you don't have any chicken broth or chicken stock, you could just use water, and you could use any type of chicken bouillon. Along with this recipe, I'll be actually smashing some beans because I'll be making taquitos out of this. I love adding the beans on there. It's just an extra filler on there. And finally, some medium-sized flour tortillas. Now, I like to meal prep this so that way I'll eat a couple taquitos and then I'll just wrap the rest of them and they'll be ready for breakfast the next morning. Okay, in a pot filled with water, we have our tomatillos and our serranos. When cooking tomatillos, they are gonna change color, but we're gonna be cooking them till about they're a little tender. You don't want to overcook these because these end up becoming mush. So we'll be actually taking out our tomatillos before we do our serranos. So turn on the heat and we're gonna bring this to a boil. Okay, now that we have it to a boiling, we're gonna be paying attention to the color of the tomatillos. Once they turn like a brownish color, then that's when we'll be removing them. But the serranos are gonna take a little bit more time to fully cook. Okay, now that you see our tomatillos changing color, we're gonna just go ahead and rotate them. Let some cooking on that other end. Now these actually cook really fast once you get it up to boiling. So we're gonna just let this go for a couple more minutes. They're looking like the color that I wanna take them. I don't want these to become mushy. Okay, once our tomatillos are done cooking, we're gonna take them out and put them in our blender. As you can see, it went from that really bright green color. This is the color that we're looking for to know that they're done. Now for the Serrano peppers, we're gonna just let them cook for a couple more minutes. We just wanna make sure that they're tender. Okay, once our peppers are fully cooked, we'll go ahead and take them out. Now we wanna make sure that we take the stems off of them. Now place these in your blender once you do. All right, so we have our tomatillos in our blender. We're gonna be adding in our serranos, our garlic, add in our onion. Now I cut these up in a little bit smaller pieces. That way it can blend easier. Add in our oregano, add in about a handful of cilantro. Now we'll pour in a cup of the chicken broth. Now we'll blend this and make sure that it's nice and smooth. Okay, so at this point, all we're gonna be doing is just checking for seasoning. Since I used low sodium chicken broth, we will be needing to add some salt. About a teaspoon there. Give this a mix. Okay, so now we're just gonna be checking for seasoning. If it needs a little bit more salt, add salt. Okay, for my taste, I'm gonna add a little bit more. You just wanna add salt little by little. All right, with the fresh spoon, perfect. All right, so this salsa does have a nice little kick. Like I said, if you want it a little bit not as spicy, go ahead and add less peppers and different types of peppers you wanna use. But for me, this has a nice kick. It's gonna make some wonderful taquitos. So let's get our chicharron and start cooking that. Okay, now we're gonna fill our pan up with our chicharron. So you got big pieces like this. We'll actually just break that down. We'll break them down to about this size right here. Now that we have our chicharron all broken up, now we're gonna be adding in our salsa just to start covering it. I think that should be good. We'll save the rest of this salsa. If I need to add a little bit more, I'll add more, but I'll save this for other stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and turn on our heat. Let's go ahead and mix this together. Let that salsa soak up into the chicharron. This is where we're gonna hydrate it. Now what we could do is we could add a little bit more chicken broth. I could probably do that at this moment because the salsa is a little bit spicy, so that'll kind of, you know, bring the heat level down. And so we'll add a little bit of chicken broth, about like a quarter of a cup. And let this come to temperature. That way that salsa and chicken broth can kind of just start soaking into the chicharron. Okay, we're gonna add just a little bit more chicken broth, about another quarter of a cup. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, just gotta let the chicharron absorb all that flavor, all that juice. Okay, so we're just gonna cook this just for a few minutes, not really that long. Because once the salsa and the broth kind of get into the chicharron, they loosen up pretty quick. Okay, after a few minutes of cooking, you can feel that it's starting to get soft. Now this really is up to you. This is a preference thing. Some people like it really, really mushy. Some people don't. So that's a preference. So cook these to the tenderness that you want. Me, I really don't care. I eat them both ways, where it's a little crispy, it has a little bite to it. But my favorite place that I get breakfast burritos from, they actually make it like real soggy, so I don't mind it. But yeah, at this point we're pretty much done, and now we'll assemble our taquitos. Now that we got our comal hot, we'll go ahead and warm up our flour tortillas. After a couple seconds, we'll give it a flip. Now, let's assemble our taquitos. Okay, we're gonna add just a little bit of beans, all the way down to about right here, because I'm gonna be folding it right here. Now we'll add in a little bit of our chicharron. I've showed you guys this before, how to roll a burrito. If you're gonna be doing both sides, but this is a small tortilla, so we're just gonna be rolling one side. Just fold it, pull back, fold up. You can actually fold in. That way it keeps it nice and closed. So, let's give this a taste test. Hands down, this is one of my favorite breakfast burritos. So, let's get into it. Yep, it hits every time. That salsa, really good flavor. You got the crunchiness, but it's, you know, a little soggy from the chicharron. Then you get the creaminess from the beans. It goes really, really well. If you want to add a little bit more salsa to this, actually this has a kick. I wouldn't need to add any salsa, but I do it anyways. If you're new to my channel, consider hitting the subscribe button. That way you can see future videos just like this. Now y'all be beautiful and take care.